Hey, good afternoon, fellow aces. I'm David Pine. I'm the author and content creator here at the Displaced Ace. This week, just wanted to talk with you guys a little bit more about aeronautical decision making, or ADM. So it's a systematic process through which the pilot reaches a decision during flying operations. It's a multifaceted type concept, and as an instructor or evaluator pilot, when I teach a student pilot or reflect on my own flying, much of the debrief effort is focused towards elements of aeronautical decision making. Pilot errors can actually be broken into three different categories. Those are perception, execution, and decision. Perception error is the pilot perceived something incorrectly, whether it's a warning from the aircraft or a cue in the natural environment, clouds building, etc., the winds, when you're making an approach to landing, that kind of stuff. Just perceived something incorrectly, and that led to less than desirable outcome. Execution is just that phenomenon where your hands or feet get ahead of your brain, basically making inputs that are incorrect, even though you know what the correct decision or proper input should have been. So maybe it's cueing the radio when you're trying to hit another button in the cockpit, or turn on your landing light when you mean to hit your beacons or something like that. So just making the wrong physical input. And decision error, which is closely tied to perception, usually is that you just made the wrong decision given the information that you had. So it's more of like a hindsight, looking back at it in the debrief of had I decided to do this differently, we would have had a more desirable outcome. And then looking at what led you to make that decision. Really, the two, perception and decision error, really interact with aeronautical decision making, and then you can see how you arrived at that process and if there were any errors or inconsistencies in how you made that decision in the end. So when I picture ADM, I picture it as an intersection of points, or kind of like a hub and spoke, or a propeller in the center of it, if you will, like a five-bladed propeller. And around the outside, you have aeronautical decision making in the middle. Around the outside, you have situational awareness, or SA, the pilot's CRM, or crew resource management, their general knowledge and prior experience, and then human factors in the form of physiological and psychological elements. I'll put the figure I built down below this vlog so you guys can see the visual aid, basically, that I developed to explain this concept of aeronautical decision making. In particular, what aeronautical decision making and risk management issues that jumped out to me in UAS operations this week were the FAA's hazardous attitudes. Now, I've seen those before in manned aircraft operations. What's interesting when applied to UAS operations, I feel like several of them actually get accentuated by the fact that you're remotely operating. So hazardous attitudes identified were anti-authority, impulsivity, invulnerability, macho, and resignation. And the anti-authority attitude is the student or inexperienced pilot that doesn't want to be told differently, so don't tell me, don't teach me, I know what I'm doing type attitude. Impulsivity is just making quick, rapid decisions without really a thorough or systematic judgment process, so poor judgment maybe. I feel like I want to do this, so I'm going to do it. Vulnerability is the fact that there's not really risk to me, or I won't be hurt by this decision, etc. So I can see that one in particular, and maybe some of the impulsivity being really heightened by UAS operations. Macho is basically just wanting to save face by continuing down a wrong course. You may know that you're wrong, but just not willing to back down. And then resignation is the opposite of that, of basically like, this is out of my hands, there's nothing I can do to fix this situation, just letting it continue to spiral downward. Unique human factors challenges that UAS operations face are in particular single pilot resource management. So unless you're in a larger UAS operation, probably not a crew, it's usually a single pilot, so you have to really rely on everything that you are able to perceive and draw upon from prior experience, your knowledge of the aircraft, the environment, etc., and make decisions, sometimes in rapid fashion, depending on what type of flying you're doing. If you're in close and low to obstacles in the environment, those things can come up pretty rapidly and build upon you. Another human factor relative to remote operation or UAS is when you're flying in an environment, as you turn a circle or turn the aircraft back towards you, your control inputs are now kind of counterintuitive. They're relative to the perspective of the UAS. So what used to be a right turn with the aircraft or a right bank when you're flying away from you. When you make that same input, you see the aircraft making a bank to its right, but that's now your left. So there's some things when you change perspective rapidly as you're not in the aircraft itself that can be really disorienting for you as operators, which is another human factor. So we really have to maintain SA on the perspective of the aircraft and not necessarily where you're positioned as the operator. And then finally, because you are remote operating, you have the potential to be distracted by ground-based anomalies, whether that's traffic in the area, people walking through, or disrupting you, somebody talking to you while you're flying, etc. Those things can still happen, or examples of similar things can happen while you're in the cockpit of a manned aircraft, but you can have the ability to kind of sanitize your own environment when you're in the aircraft and narrow it down which radio channels you're listening to, tell your crew to pipe down for a minute and kind of limit what sort of communications you have coming in versus remote operating. You have a lot of sensory stimuli still going on in the environment around you. So that's a little bit about aeronautical decision making. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think of the visual aid or the presentation here. Look forward to hearing from you. Have a great week.